much better.
Yes. Can you hear me and see me now?
Yes, I can hear you and see you.
Oh,
So I'm gonna try record this on Skype, which I've never done before. So I have to tell you
okay.
that, otherwise they just cut me off. So I'm gonna try
Oh, all
record it.
right.
This is the first time I'm doing this. So last time I did it with Simon Roach, I had no sound.
Oh, all right.
So let me start here. See what happens. Okay, you should see a thing that says start recording at the top. Can you see it?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. All right. So we should be good. So this is the Hawk, and I'm interviewing. How do you say your name again? It's
Vuyo.
Vuyo, and he's the leader and president, right, of the
Yes,
African Transformation Movement, and it's the ATM, correct?
yes.
Where were you born? Where? What state? Province?
In the Eastern Cape,
On
in
the
the town called Mthatha.
Mtata? Oh, that's there used to be the old Transkei, correct?
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, I'm glad to meet you. I was born in Durban many years ago. I immigrated to the United States, and I've been here 20 years, so I know a lot about South Africa.
All right.
I grew up in apartheid. I voted it out as soon as I turned
Mm,
18. So I've learned, I've grown up with both sides of what's been going on. So I'm really glad to meet you. I was reading your manifesto today and going through some things in here, and I've got lots of questions for you. So it's
okay.
yeah. So I was trying to watch, and I must apologize because I didn't know about you guys until about a week ago, and I've been
Mm,
trying to watch some of your videos, and I liked what you did in that one town hall. I didn't see it all because I didn't have enough time. It was quite informative, and I like some of your views. I was going through how you put this together, and it's put South Africa
mm,
first, which is like peace, Bantu
yes.
transformation, uh, uh, leadership, and accountability. Great.
Yes.
That's actually a great thing. I actually like that. Um,
Mm,
yeah, I like that. So I see it's kind of controversial that this capital punishment. I'm in
mm,
agreement with you because of the rampant crime, uh,
yes.
rape, murder, and it becomes everybody's complacent with it, so it's okay, and nobody's
Mm,
reporting them, and
mm,
it's terrible. I mean,
yes.
you know,
Yes.
even going through the statistics of what I saw from there was a professor in Cape Town, a black professor in Cape Town, put together a a study on the murders and what really happened during apartheid and since
Mm,
apartheid, and since he put it that from and how I mean he did his manifesto on it, or his thesis on it, and he stated that
mm,
from 1948 to 1994, a total of 21,000 murders,
mm,
well, deaths associated with apartheid and crime
okay.
and conflicts and stuff. Well, the statistics today state that close to 33 to 40,000 people are murdered in South Africa a year now. That
Mm,
is outrageous. That's staggering, and
yes.
that's really staggering. And also, in just with that as well, you guys are averaging 56 murders.
Seven.
Yeah, 57 murders a day. That's terrible.
Mm, mm.
They average, they say one woman is raped every 3 days.
No, it's one woman is raped, I think, every 15 minutes.
That's appalling. That's just appalling.
Mm,
Um, that's just appalling. Anyway, enough of me. I want to hear about you. I want to hear about your
mm,
party. You talk about capital punishment, industrial developments for sustainable. So, are you guys interested? Are you guys more onto a free market capitalist system, uh, similar to the United States, or are you guys more on a controlled government system of business, or what are you guys thinking?
Look, for now, if you check where we are as a country, we cannot be in the level of the United States. We need government intervention as much as possible currently, because if you check the amount of poverty, unemployment, the socio-economic conditions, however, you are doing all of this in the view that in the long term, you won't be regulating the market so much. So currently, we cannot be like the United States of America.
But you would encourage investment, wouldn't you, for industrial, um, for investment so that they can build industry and bring in investments, and so you could have more jobs. Would you consider that?
Yes, definitely. We are considering investment because there's no way in which our country can develop without investment.
I agree.
Now, the role of the government when it comes to business is to make sure that the business transactions that will take place will have social sense, because we can't have a state whereby it's all about profit. Because currently, like I said earlier on, the poverty is very high, unemployment is very high. Therefore, you need a government that will lead the private sector towards making decisions that make social sense.
Okay, okay, okay. So, you talked about here a state bank with communal banks, and is that like uh, you're still going to have private banks, but you're also going to have a state bank that is controlling the other little banks all over the place? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, we will not. We are not saying all banks must be nationalized.
Mm-hmm.
We are saying let us create a platform. Let us create a state bank for the benefit of the poor customers who can't afford the charges, who can't afford the services provided by these registered banks. At the
I
same time, the role of these communal banks, remember, these communal banks understand, they are more in the rural communities. So they understand the culture, the lifestyle, as well as the laws that are applicable to those rural communities. So once the state bank is working closely with those communal banks, it means the banking services will reach the people much more effectively.
Oh, okay, that's actually a good idea. Instead of them going to the bank and being denied loans all the time.
Yes, because even now, if you were to go to these formal banks, you can't go and request for a loan and use land that is in the villages, for example, as as
Co-
a what you call is a
collateral,
collateral or
yes,
deposit.
yes, yes.
Yes, you can't do that because these formal banks they're not doing business in the African sense. In other words, understanding our conditions
Uh-huh.
of the African people.
Hmm.
So you need to create those communal banks whereby people can use, for example, their livestock as collateral, can use their houses in the villages as collateral.
Okay, and I wanted to ask you about that. What is your thoughts on this land reform? Going by the statistics that I'm seeing, the government right now owns 75% of most of the land that is not being
Hmm.
used, literally not being used. And then
Hmm.
you have tribal lands too that are, uh, say, belonging to the tribe, right? And these are traditional tribal lands, right? And I know because I was there, I saw the people would want a piece of land, they would go to the local chief. The local chief would
Hmm.
assign them a piece of land and say, "This is your piece," and they would pay rent for it. Now,
Yes.
and uh, the and given we all know the problems with South Africa with regards to the ANC and all the other stuff, and corruption and all this other stuff. So even though when they did give farms, there was no, like you were talking about, the banks won't loan them money. They won't teach them how to farm. I remember working in building power lines in Natal, up in Natabankulu, Kusunduzwayo, Adams Mission, all the way through Winkelspruit, Bogantwini area, all those areas, right? And I saw land there. The problem is, uh, it didn't. The most of people used cattle, and if you don't, once you get thorns, it takes 25 years to get rid of thorns. Because the land goes back to the thorns right away. Okay, so it's hard to get rid of those thorns. So with sustainable co-ops, if you have real co-ops, right, that you have a guy that knows what he's doing. We'll say you take 10 co-op farms, and you have a manager, a foreman, and guy, or all these co-op farms work together in a collective farming system that is educational. It teaches the people over generations how to farm. That's sustainable. And the massive amounts of food that can be generated from that could feed the whole of Africa. The thought of that is just mind-blowing when you think about it. If it's managed right, you know. But anyway, I like that idea, especially this communal bank thing, because you're right. You can't, even here in the States, you have to sell your soul to buy a car. It's that bad. Yeah. So also, and you were talking about, okay, so what is SMSE? I'm sorry, it was abbreviated, so I wasn't sure what that means.
Yes, it's small, medium enterprises.
Oh, okay. So little stores or hairdressing shops and
yeah, basically the small companies.
Yes, like mom and pop shop. That's what we call them.
Remember, South Africa is trying to encourage entrepreneurship. So you find that many people will have these small businesses that are starting to get off the ground. So they club together and they are named SMMEs.
Okay, I see what you're saying. I see you saying you're going to subsidize the taxi industry. Is there a reason for that?
Yes, if you look at the transport system in our country, the taxis, they transport 70% of the passengers on a daily basis. Now, the trains get subsidy, the buses get subsidy, the flights get subsidies. But this mode of transport that transports almost 70, in fact, 70% does not get any subsidy. And now what we're saying is the ATM, when you subsidize the taxi industry, you are actually helping the final consumer because it is the consumer that will pay less. And also, if you speak about fairness, it is not fair that a bus that transports less than 50% of the population on a daily basis gets a subsidy. The train gets a subsidy, a flight gets a subsidy. But the one that transports bulk of the people is not getting any assistance from the government.
So, okay, so I have a question for you. Based on the taxi industry, we know we got all these taxi wars.
Yes.
Would you guys be thinking about limiting how many owners own taxis to stop the war? You know what I mean? So the taxi owner can only have, like, say, 20 taxis. Or is that a problem?
The war is not caused, the taxi wars are not caused by taxi owners owning a lot of taxis. It is caused when there is corruption, whereby a certain taxi association, they are given the routes, they only fight about the routes, nothing else.
Okay.
So, yeah, so once you get rid of corruption, whereby the taxi association gets routes in a place whereby they should not be getting routes, where their cars and their taxis should be getting business on. Once you deal with that, there won't be any wars.
So if you,
I've engaged,
yeah, sorry.
yes, I've engaged with a lot of taxi people in the taxi industry, and they told me the only reason why they fight is because of the routes,
Oh,
and that's all.
oh. So if you took away the taxi or the taxi associations, anybody could go anywhere, right?
You need the taxi associations because remember, it's much better to oversee and administer when these different taxi owners are in an organization.
Oh, okay.
What you need to take away is the corruption whereby instead, because what you need to take away it is when these taxi owners now they are given a route that belongs to another taxi association,
Oh, okay.
and this other taxi association they retaliate.
Oh, okay. I understand now. See, I'm learning something.
Yes.
Okay. So okay, and you talked about you know the so I have a bunch of questions for you. So
Okay.
considering that most of, and I'm talking about everybody. So I have another question for you. Given that, and I know this sounds, it's going to be controversial what I'm going to ask you.
Hmm.
So we understand that during the early whites coming to Africa and the blacks coming from the Bantu coming down from the north, and you all got there one time. So for 300 and
Hmm.
whatever years, everybody's been born or living in this place. Okay, so
Hmm.
I have to, and because I'm a humanitarian, I don't look at people by the
Yes.
color of their skin. And I've always tell people in
Hmm.
America, I'm an African American. And they look at me and they
Hmm.
go, but you're not black. I say, Africa is not a color. It's a continent. It's a
Hmm.
piece of land.
Yes.
So for 300 years, every child born in Africa, no matter what their colors, are African, right?
Hmm.
They don't know anything else. Same as me. I didn't know nothing in my life until I was 18 years old. And the strange thing is, I used to ask my father, why? Why are we doing this? What is this? Why is this? I didn't understand apartheid. Nobody did. Even
Hmm.
my dad looked at me.
Hmm.
He had this strange look on his face. And he said, I don't know. It's the law. And you see how you got to remember back in the early 60s, there was, they controlled the newspaper. They controlled, even, we didn't
Hmm.
have TV then. We remember it was
Hmm.
just a radio then. Back when I was a little boy until I was 15, I never saw a TV. So there
Hmm.
was just the newspaper, the radio, and that was it. We didn't even know about too much about America. We heard, oh, earthquake 3 months ago. You understand? That's
Yes.
how news got to
Hmm.
us. So remember, we didn't even have cell phones in those days. We had the old
Hmm.
crank phone. Remember? It was
Hmm.
technology. Look, you got earphones. Technology has come so great. It's unbelievable. But anyway,
Yes.
so looking at that, I look at the Afrikaans people, and I'm English, okay? So I look at
Hmm.
the Afrikaans people. They were left there by the colonialists that, well, not so much actually, they weren't colonized. They just stopped there to have food and then move
Hmm.
on. The people that stayed there landed up becoming Africans. And I
Hmm.
understand their logic now, because at first I never did. I'll be honest with you. I never understood why. So going back
Hmm.
in the history of the Afrikaner, I understood that he didn't belong in Europe.
Hmm.
They were left there, and the people that did originally come, they died. And those people grew up in Africa. They only know Africa. When the British came,
Hmm.
when the British came, they wanted to colonize them. They said, no, I'd
Hmm.
rather live with the black man. So they went to live with the black man. That's exactly what they did. They went to live
Hmm.
with the black people. And they were happy. They were all living together in peace. Zulus, Xhosas, Sondus, everybody, and the Afrikaner, until the British found, oh, there's diamonds here, there's gold here, we're coming to fight.
Hmm.
And the
Hmm.
Boers fought them off. for everybody.
mm,
They were the only ones fighting. And then
mm,
the British wanted to control everything. But besides that, what I'm saying is, and I'm not saying this in a racist way, I'm trying to justify the fact that for 300 years you're all Africans, no
mm,
matter what color. So
mm,
I see people say they got to realize who really started this nonsense with apartheid. It's the British.
mm,
They did this to
mm,
everybody. They put this divide. They started apartheid, which is terrible because nobody wants to hear
mm,
it. It's sad, but that's the truth. So anyway,
mm,
that's my take on it. Anyway, so what I'm trying to say is, if we want this to work, everybody has to work together. My
mm,
organization is called the United South African Coalition. And the reason I say
mm,
united is because we're all Africans. Coalition, everybody
mm,
together. One stick is not
mm,
strong, many sticks is a very strong thing. Many branches put together
mm,
is strong, right? You can't break it.
mm.
You can't break it. But anyway, and so what is your take on that? What do you think? What does your organization think about that?
Yeah, what the ATM is saying is that we need to come back firstly to our humanity.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to read some of our documents, we're saying we need to have a humanistic approach to politics, and our ideology it is humanity. What we mean by that is that we're all human beings. That is the foundation of how we should look at one another.
Exactly.
It's we're all human
Human
beings.
beings.
We have a slogan that says one God, one human race, because we understand and believe God did not create different races, because God is not different races.
There is only
There's
one
only
race.
one God.
Yes. And only one race.
Now, what
Yes.
is only one race, the human race.
Race.
Now, what we mean by that is that if we're going to speak about who is an African, there is, I'm not sure if you know him, one of the people that were involved in the liberation struggle of South Africa, Robert Sobukwe. He says an African is anyone who considers Africa as his home. So it's not a matter of the color of the skin, because you may have, for example, white people, white-skinned people who consider Africa is their home. You may also have black-skinned people who do not consider Africa their home.
Uh-huh.
Therefore, this notion of racializing and looking at the color of the skin, it is actually flawed because it does not speak to the attitude of a person towards Africa. Because what should determine whether Africa is your home is the attitude that you have towards Africa. So that is why we, as the ATM, were saying, being an African, firstly, it is when a person considers Africa as a home. Secondly, it is a matter of the value system because the African value systems, the values of Ubuntu, of respect, what defines an African, it's also those values. And those values, they are not race based, but rather they are
Respect.
humanly based.
Yes, yes. I remember when I was a child, if an old man came down the road, everybody would say, Ukatla. Yes,
Yes,
or Goko. It was respect.
yes.
Nowadays they don't do that, you know.
Mm,
And everybody was Baba or
mm,
Kosan, or there was all
mm,
these, um, Mulumbi, his uncle.
mm,
There was all
mm,
these sayings, and when I was a child, I always used to love listening to music that people used to sing on
mm,
Friday because it was payday. You know, you don't hear that no more.
mm,
When I got older, you didn't hear the singing like Shoza Loza.
mm,
You don't hear that no
mm.
more. You know,
Yes.
I remember sitting watching little kids one day just singing Shoza Loza, and it was like it's a
Mm,
warm feeling. It's like feels like
mm,
home. And being an African, you know, like in the summertime, the smell of the first rains, and you smell the grass.
mm,
I miss that.
mm,
I miss
mm,
the smell of the sea. There's only one place, you know. There's only Africa's got a place for you. You can only. It's in your heart.
mm,
It's not something you can throw away. You know. You understand,
mm.
right? So anyway, question for you: education. So
Yes.
education for all, right? Basically, that's what you're
Mm,
saying. So
mm,
I believe that if we, what do you think of trade schools?
mm. What we want as the ATM is that education must be free,
Uh huh.
because when you educate a nation, you are actually helping the government so that in future you do not need to pay out grants. And most importantly, you are making sure that you've got a generation of people who are self-reliant rather than being reliant on the state.
There we go.
So it has to be free. It has to be free. Secondly, it has to be compulsory, because when you are educated, you are getting a skill. Now, when it's compulsory for you to be skilled, then it means you won't be a burden on anyone in the future because you've got the necessary skills. Also, I think it must be quality, because there's a lot of differences in terms of the quality of education that is provided by public schools, as well as the quality of education that is provided by private schools. Now, what we're saying is the ATM is that there needs to be quality education, particularly for the township and rural schools, because what perpetuates inequalities, it is the quality of education,
I agree.
because the ones that are having quality education in the private schools, they end up getting proper jobs and being properly skilled.
Mm,
But the ones that are in the rural and township schools, they get poor quality education and they get poor quality training. Therefore, they are not adequately skilled to get proper jobs. Therefore, the education system currently perpetuates inequality. So
mhm.
hence, we want to get the level of the public schools to the level
Of the
of
private schools.
of private
Yeah.
schools.
Okay. Okay.
Now, we also have the artisan schools.
Yes.
That is what they are there, but they are not given much focus, and young people are not encouraged to actually take a look at them. But we do believe that, for example, if you've got a plumbing business, sometimes you may get paid much more than what you would get
Can
if
I
it was a formal
can
employment.
I tell you
So
something?
hence,
Yeah. Can I tell you
yes,
something? Here in the United States, a tradesman makes more money than a doctor sometimes.
yes,
They need tradesmen so bad because that's the
mm,
future. The old days when you
mm,
were educated with a BA degree and
mm,
that kind of that's gone now. The people need
mm,
skills. They can't find skilled
yes,
labor. I'm an electrician by trade, and I was
mm,
trained in South Africa, and I was trained over here, and I have other skills as a military man. But but as
mm,
a tradesman, I'm telling you, the need for tradesmen right now throughout the world has become to the point
mm,
where it's becoming a better profession than a doctor or a lawyer.
mm,
So what I'm saying, and you're right, if you teach a man a skill, he has an opportunity to start his own business. And Africa needs that
mm,
because, like
mm,
you said, you could build schools that are so well and so on a high level like that that it would be like a place to people want to send their children, to be
mm,
educated.
mm,
That's a great idea. That's a damn great idea.
yes,
I like that idea. Keep going. I'm very interested.
mm, yes. So that is what we want to do when it comes to education. And we also believe that an educated nation has got a future. So if young people are educated, then South Africa's got a great future.
Yes.
Then it's going to be difficult, for example, for anyone to mislead our young people, because
Hmm.
our young people they know what is happening, they know their rights, they know basically they know what they should be getting, and they are able to make informed decisions
Decisions.
about their
Yes.
lives.
Yes.
Yes, so that is why for us, education is one of our anchors because we believe that without having education, you will not be going anywhere. And we want to in the role because what we have currently as the ATM one is a vision of where we want to go and the current impediments of what is currently wrong and what needs priority now. So currently, what needs priority, you've got schools in the rural areas that are still mud schools. You've got schools without proper infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, in as much as we may want, for example, to have tablets in all schools, but we need to start at the most underprivileged schools.
Yeah.
Make sure that we upskill, upgrade, so that at least we do not have children that are still starting in mud schools or they're still using pit toilets and all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Then from there, we can now focus on the more advanced technological aspects that are needed to make the education to be quality. So infrastructure is a key priority because currently in the rural areas, many students, even for example, they need to cross rivers when they are going to school. They need to. Some of them they die because they go because of the pit toilets. So there's a lot that
So
the South
you
African government
what
has
you're
not
saying
done.
is you need a modern school with electricity, decent toilets, proper desks, proper
Yes,
windows, infrastructure,
yes,
electricity, everything. Yeah.
yes,
Wi-Fi? You need that for the school. Computers, that
yes,
kind of stuff. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I agree totally. Proper fields for them to do
mm,
sport, everything, everything.
yes,
Yeah, yeah. That's a
yes,
very good idea. I like that idea.
mm,
Yeah, it's education. You know what they say? If you build it, they will come.
mm,
So you're right. You start from the worst and go up to the best, and in the end,
mm,
the quality will be better. It's a good idea. I like that.
mm,
So okay, so we know the problems in South Africa. We know that yes, they you're talking about we're gonna change. You're gonna do all this and now. So I have a question for you. So we know this rampant crime, rampant corruption.
mm,
How will you solve this?
mm. Let's start with crime. Firstly, the leadership or South Africans have got a bad approach or attitude when it comes to crime. We have adopted an attitude that understands criminals. Because if you check anywhere now in the country, when a crime has been committed, one of the first questions is to understand the perpetrator, the criminal, as to how is he, what are the socio-economic conditions of the perpetrator. Whereas I don't think in this day and age, there's someone that does not know killing a person can never be justified.
I agree.
Raping a person can never be justified.
I agree.
Therefore, we need to have a tough stance on crime because if we do not have a tough stance on crime, then we understand crime. And once we understand crime, as in we are basically condoning crime. So we've got two things that we want to advance when it comes to crime. The first one, it is to introduce a labor convict system whereby all of the prisoners actually work for the state for free. Why? Because firstly, as the ordinary citizens, law abiding citizens, as the taxpayers, we contribute to the country through our taxes. Now, part of our taxes, they go to providing meals,
Meals, educate.
healthcare,
Yeah, yeah,
education now for the criminals. Now, it does not make sense that a person who has wronged society, but it is society that is paying for this person's meals,
yeah.
education, and healthcare. And here, South Africans who are law abiding, they're currently struggling, trying to make men's ends meet.
Yes, yes.
Now, but they are contributing to the country because it is their country by paying taxes.
Yes, yes.
Now, also, these prisoners, must be given an opportunity to also contribute to the country by working for the state for free. Now, what they will do is that firstly, you've got issues whereby we don't have enough houses or there's not enough budget for the houses. Now, what we want as the ATM, they must also participate in terms of building additional houses. If, for example, the Department of Human Settlements has got has got a budget of 10 billion to build houses. That will only go up to so much. But if you have these inmates also working for the state for free, additional houses can be built. You've got cases in the rural and township communities whereby young girls miss days of school because of their monthly cycling, because they do not afford sanitary towels. Now, the female prisoners can actually work for the state and create what you call we have factories inside the prisons, factories that are predominantly working for, that are making those sanitary towels, so that all of those sanitary towels can be given to those deserving girls for free. That way, we do not have any young girl that is missing a day of school because of their monthly cycling. We also have a situation of poverty, whereby people that are going to bed on an empty stomach. These inmates, they need to work on farms, produce enough fruit and vegetables that will be given to the poor people, so that you do not have anyone that is going to bed on an empty stomach.
And also
Because
feeding
currently
them
the
too.
attitude,
Yeah.
yes, the attitude of people now when it comes to going to prison, the reason why they are so repeat offenders, there's a general perception and attitude that life in prison
You
is
see, it's
much better
better
than
than
life
outside. I hear you.
outside.
Yes, yes.
Hence, you find that many people, they commit crime because they want to live that better life they find in prison.
Mm-hmm.
However, when they are working for the state for free, and that is the only way in which they will understand that they are there to actually earn back their place in society. They are in a place whereby they need to be rehabilitated
Treated. Yeah.
and corrected so that they can contribute to the other people's welfare. That is what we want to have.
You know,
Now,
you
on the issue of
that's actually a good idea because uh, I always thought of a program where you could get out of jail on condition you finish your
mm,
trade. So you have to go to school to while you're in jail, while you're working,
mm,
you're learning a trade, and if you can pass your trade test, you might be able to get out
mm,
of jail a little earlier.
mm,
That's just an
mm,
idea, though. But it's a good idea.
yes.
I like what you're saying. I
Mm.
really like
Now,
what
on
you're
the
saying.
issue of the capital punishment,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, one of our problems in South Africa, it is our attitude towards violent crimes.
Mm.
Now, that is why we need to have a tough stance when it comes to crime, because the criminals, they know exactly what they're doing when they're killing people.
Oh yeah.
Therefore, we cannot treat that those criminals with kid gloves as if they did not know that when they are killing a person, they are actually committing crimes against humanity.
There we go.
So that is why you are saying there needs to be a justice-based capital punishment system to deal with severe and heinous crimes. Because in their country, for example, you have people living with albinism. Now, these people, they feel like endangered species because from time to time, you find that other people, they've got a belief that when they kill them, they can use their body parts for medicinal purposes.
Mm.
So you find that now they're not living freely in the South Africa that we think it is free. They are not feeling as South African. They're not feeling safe like other people.
Mm.
You've got cases, for example, last year where you had one guy that kills a family of seven, which includes, I think there were four young people there, children. I think the children were still in crash. This guy kills them, buries them inside this house. Now, what we're saying is that for some of those cases, it clearly shows that those people do not want to live amongst other people, and they cannot be rehabilitated. Therefore, to protect society, you need to have the capital punishment system. Just 2 or 3 weeks ago, in one of the prisons, one of the prisoners firstly raped one of the prison warders and stabbed the prison warder to death. The other one was also raped and stabbed, but fortunately she did not die.
Yes, I read
So
that.
what we're seeing in the country is that we are having a multitude of people that do not have any regard for human life. So, and the public is very aware of this, because if you were to look at the crime stats that have been reported, there's plus minus 500 cases of mob justice that was recorded in 1 year, and people have died because of mob justice. So how we understand mob justice as ATM, that is society actually speaking to government to say,
fix this.
we are tired of crime, and we as the communities believe that some of the punishment the perpetrators get should be punishment by their life. So what we're doing as the ATM is to introduce a mechanism whereby people of this country have got confidence in the justice system, and they will not have to take the law into their own hands.
Yes. So
I understand that. Yes.
So I have a saying I've had for years: if the law does not prevail, you have no law. Because it's so logical. If you have no law, your country is ungovernable. You don't have control. And you're right. If there's no consequences, people just take advantage.
Yeah, I know many people will ask that because we're a faith-based organization, are we not contradicting to the Bible or the Quran? And we did say, look, if you read the 10 Commandments, God says they do not kill.
Thou shalt not kill.
So, yes, God is giving a law to the people that they should not kill. However, the same God says to the authorities that when people are actually killing, there are some, when people do not respect some of the laws, they need to be punished with their lives. Hence, if you read Genesis 9 verses 6 up to Revelation 10 verses 13, God is very clear that for some of the crimes committed, the punishment should be people paying with their lives. So what we are doing, it is not anti-God or anti-Christian, because God does give authority not to individuals but to the authorities to punish people with their lives. It does not give authority to a person, an individual, to actually take the life of another person.
Yes. So an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth.
No, not really, because, for example, you find that a person, we're not saying immediately you kill one person, that equates to capital punishment. What we're saying is that there are heinous cases whereby we're saying this cannot be justified because it is pure evil. Because it is pure evil and the person cannot be rehabilitated, they need to be punished with their lives.
So, saying that, what are you going to do about rape? Because the rape is just unbelievable. Even as young as 2 years old. This is beyond even my
Yes.
I can't even this is terrible.
Yeah. Yes, this is what when you speak of capital punishment, we speak of firstly repeat offenders. We speak of, for example, when you kill people because of their nationality, because of whether they've got albinism. You also got repeat cases whereby you repeatedly murder people, you repeatedly rape people. That should, because when a person rapes another person, particularly, for example, a child as 3 or 4 years old, you have emotionally ruined the
This
child's
child's
life.
life, yes.
Hence, we find that many of the children, when they grow up,
They
they
become,
cannot have meaningful relationships
yeah,
with men
yeah,
because of that particular experience.
yes, yes.
So it is for that reason whereby that's why you are saying there are no socio-economic problems that lead people to commit some crime, such as raping innocent children. That is why we're not going to blame socio-economic problems for some of the
So
crimes,
so they
because
can't use it as an excuse all the time.
no, a
No,
person needs to take responsibility for
for
his
those
action.
actions, yes.
If yeah, if you decide to 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 take another person's life, take responsibility for that. If you decide to emotionally scar a young child for life by raping a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old child, you must be able to take responsibility for that
Yeah,
and not blame it on any other thing.
I agree with you. And so the laws in South Africa state that any child under the age of 18, I don't know if they've changed that now, but I remember when I was there that no child under the age of 18 can go to jail. Is this still the case?
Yes, there are juvenile prisons whereby a person that is under the age of 18, when they commit a crime, rather than being mixed with the older people, there's a separate prison system
Mm,
for them.
okay, okay, okay. So I'm hearing through the people giving me information that the older ones are using the young ones to do the crimes, and so
Mm,
that they don't go to jail. They get just put
mm,
in the juvenile jails, which is not very hard, and a lot of them escape and
mm,
they do it again and do it again,
mm,
and it is rape and murder as well. Is
mm.
there? Are you guys gonna try and come up with an idea how to stop that? Especially repeat offenders, will they be also part of the capital punishment, or uh, how would you deal with that?
Mm. Look, when you say repeat offenders, remember, when a person is in jail, that should be enough that they must understand that they've committed a crime. And the reason why they're in jail, it is for them to be rehabilitated and they need to correct their ways.
Mm,
Now, if a person is in jail and is showing, firstly, no remorse, no signs of changing their ways, and still continues
to,
to
to,
actually influence other people to commit these crimes, because the problem, what we're aiming for is the ATM, it is to deal with the source, because if you're going to arrest this young boy that is committing these crimes, having been sent by this older guy. If you arrest all of these young boys, because this older guy will find other people they can use, what is most important, you need to get to the source, get to the root of the problem, and deal with the problem decisively.
question on that: the rampant corruption in the police. How do you fix that?
Okay, let's start with corruption in the broader sense.
Okay.
In the broader sense, when it comes to corruption, corruption is perpetuated when you have companies that are funding political parties. I'll make one example. I'm not sure if you are following the issue of the state capture inquiry, where there is this
Yeah.
company called Bosasa
Bosasa, yes.
that yes. Now, this company funded the ANC's events and leadership for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
In return, what the ANC had to do is that when in government, it needs to give them contracts. So the source of corruption is political parties being funded by private companies, because there's nothing called free lunch.
Yes.
So if a company gives, for example, ATM 20 million rands, now ATM maybe has got a condition that when you are in power, this is how you need to pay us back.
Mm-hmm.
So what we've done as the ATM, we said we do not want that. if you were to check or speak to people, we rarely have posters in our streets. We rarely have most of our members basically do not even have t-shirts
Mm-hmm.
because we said we do not want to be making loud calls to say we'll deal with corruption. Rather, let us be honest and genuine and deal with corruption from the root. The root of corruption, it is who funds the political party. Secondly, who funds the lifestyle of the leaders of those political parties.
Mm-hmm.
That is where the corruption starts.
So
Now,
yeah, sorry.
now the other, what you call corruption elements in society, they are caused by the leadership. For example, because they are caused by the leadership, because once you have leadership of the country that is corrupt, obviously the other people in society will think that corruption is the way to go because they see this from the leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Hence, you find that, for example, a traffic officer in the streets will take bribes if a person is broken the law by speeding because we generally have a culture of corruption. So you need to deal with corruption, the corruption culture, by having leadership that are not corrupt.
Yes.
Because if you've got leaders that are not corrupt, then the society will say, look, our leaders, they're living on their means and they are not corrupt, they do not have corrupt lifestyle. Therefore, we can also learn from that. Also, you need to deal with the corrupt elements decisively by punishing the people that are corrupt. In other words, if you were to check in the country, I think corruption has been the most widely used word for the past 10 years.
Yes.
But if you were to check or ask a question, how many people have been arrested because of corruption? Very few.
Exactly.
That is because also these political parties or political leaders, obviously one knows what is going on of the other one.
Yes.
Therefore, if you arrest one, that one will spill the beans on other people.
Yes.
That is how entrenched the culture of corruption is in the country.
Yeah, like certain leaders having $300 million houses in South Africa and Dubai. And I find it strange that a capital electrical system like Eskom is owned by some people that it was a government organization and now it's privately owned by politicians people. I find it rather strange. You know, these are terrible things. So people were talking about lie detector tests. For instance, coming into power and taking the whole of the police departments in lie detector testing everybody to see who is actually corrupt, right from the general to the last constable, and taking them out because of if your law doesn't prevail, you have no law because you need that that system where that cannot be corrupted. It must not be corrupted. Also, all the like I saw a thing today where they took the welfare, the welfare cards, the little welfare card, and the people that can get the welfare, they sent them a whole box full of welfare cards, and these people had the bed was full of money because they had gone there, collected all the money, and then they were giving out the money to whoever was all involved. And it was corrupt, these kinds of things. Also, talking about your tax base, you only have about 3.1% of your country is actually paying taxes, and yet you have 40, I think it's 46 million people there now. And I'm not 100% sure of the statistics, but how do you deal with that when it's not sustainable? Would you change the system to a VAT system where it's value added tax to everything, and that way you get your taxes? Because it'll never be sustainable if only 3% of your population's paying taxes.
Mm.
and then you're
Yeah.
giving, free education and all that other stuff. It's not sustainable.
Mm. Let's address the tax issue.
Hmm.
Firstly, by separating between company and personal tax.
Hmm.
When it comes to company tax, you have a lot of companies in the country that are not paying taxes. We've got quite a handful of companies that are foreign owned
Hmm.
that operate in South Africa, make their money in South Africa, but do not pay taxes in South Africa. That will come to an end because there is no way in which our economy will grow if you've got business people that are making money in the country and they are not contributing to the country via taxes.
Uh-huh.
Secondly, you have a situation whereby, as an individual, a person gets to pay up to 45% of their taxes.
Wow.
But with the companies, the company pays only 28% of their taxes. It's a standard flat rate,
Uh-huh.
and it's been 28% ever since, I think, 20 years ago, if I'm not mistaken.
Uh-huh.
Now, what we're saying is the ATM, it can't be that people pay up to 45% and companies only 28%.
Uh-huh.
The companies' tax, they need to go up, um, and the people's tax, they need to go, you need to reduce the personal tax to provide relief, because all of the money that we should be getting from the additional taxes that are handed over to the people is the taxes that we should be getting from these companies. Also, you've got a multitude of foreign-owned small businesses that operate in the country because they are not registered
Hmm.
businesses. They are cash-based businesses. They do not pay taxes. Therefore, hence we're saying all foreign-owned businesses, no matter how small, they need to operate in a regulated environment and space whereby they'll be able to be audited and also to be taxed. Because also you've got cash outflows out of the
Out
country.
of the country.
Um,
So it's a
is
money drain. Yes.
it's a money drain. So hence we as the ATM were saying firstly the taxes for companies must go up,
Hmm.
for the people it must go down. And we're also saying that all foreign owned businesses, even if it's a small spaza shop or it is it is a mine, but you need to pay taxes. And also we've got rich minerals that we have in the country. Now you can't have a mine that is going to be treated the same way as an ordinary business, because the mines that have our minerals, that are mining our minerals, they actually there needs to be additional levies, because those are the resources that belong to the people of South Africa. Therefore, unlike it is unlike hello
I'm here. Yes.
yes, so it is unlike just an ordinary business.
Uh-huh.
So that is why, as the ATM, want to change the tax structure that way people of South Africa, whereby the people have been hit hard by the taxes, because the main reason why the VAT had to increase from 14 to 15%, it is because the government said they did not have money.
Hmm.
But the question is, why did it not increase, for example, the levies on the mines? Why did not increase the taxes on the companies? Because companies, I think, have been paying 28% rate for the past 24 years, whereas the tax rate for the individual have been going up, up and up. Each and every year when the budget is presented,
Hmm.
there's additional taxes that are attributed to the individuals.
Yeah. So here's my question. So the mines, I know the mines are suffering because of the electrical problem in South Africa.
Mm.
So would you guys, with foreign investment, I mean, uh, would you consider a United States foreign investment, European foreign investment, and bringing in huge infrastructure to do solar fields, massive solar fields, because that's sustainable electricity. It's not, or you're
Mm.
not reliant on one single system like ESCOM.
Yes.
Mismanagement that way,
Mm.
and with sustainable electricity, you can constantly upgrade all the time. Uh,
Yes.
and because for instance, with your co-op farming and your sustainable electricity and a lot of other stuff, you could become the example for the rest of Africa. I believe so. I
Mm.
think it's there. It
Yes.
just needs good leadership. So I have one more
Mm.
last question for you, and I really appreciate you talking to me today. Um, One last question: accountability. How
Mm.
once you once you get into power, what do you
Mm.
do with the people that have corrupted the people for so many years?
Mm.
What do you do for
Look,
accountability?
if you were to look at our values, we've got peace, you've got Ubuntu, you've got transformation, servant leadership, and accountability.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is our belief and our understanding that if you are given authority, you need to exercise that authority responsibly. And if you are responsible with authority, you'll be able to be accountable. Therefore, what we're saying is that there have been cases whereby in one of these towns and municipalities where one person corrupts one municipality, but instead of him actually going to prison and being charged for it, he was sent to another
Another one, and he
municipality.
did it again.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what we're saying, if you check, we've got a tough stance on criminality. That also includes corruption.
Mm-hmm.
Corruption should not be a matter of, we should not be understanding that, no, it was one of our members that was corrupt, therefore it's justifiable. Corruption, we view corruption as a crime against humanity because there's a lot of people who lose their lives and they do not enjoy their quality of life because of corrupt elements in the country.
That's so true.
That is why, as the ATM, all corrupt individuals they must face the full might of the law without any fear, without any favor. And those corrupt people, they must understand. In fact, that will send because what we've lacked in the country, we lack a tough stance on the wrongdoing, and that does not send a good message on other people. Therefore, that is why we want to have a tough stance on corruption, send a strong message so that if anyone wants to be corrupt in future, they know what happens to corrupt people.
Yes, I think I've heard this terminology about corruption as being a human rights violation. There was a professor, I think he's from Kenya. I'm not 100%
Mm.
sure of his name. I've watched his videos before. Astounding,
Yes.
incredibly intelligent man. Uh, he said the same thing, and he calls on this corruption as a terrible thing. So I have one more question. China,
Mm.
from what I'm gathering from the rest of Africa and the way they come and invest, they end up giving lots of money, knowing
Mm.
knowing that those governments cannot pay it back, and then
Mm.
take over. And they're not
Yes.
interested. They're not interested in our people. They're only interested in
Mm.
themselves. They don't even
Mm.
employ Africans. They bring their own people to do
Yes.
it.
Mm.
How do you deal with that?
Our attitude, it is, I don't want to speak about China specifically. I want to speak about each and every country that wants to invest in
Uh-huh.
South Africa. When they invest in South Africa, it's a normal business transaction
Mm-hmm.
whereby it must also make sense for South Africa. particularly because we've got a high unemployment rate.
Yes,
It
yes.
can't be that a country comes to invest in South Africa but employs people that are coming from their country. They're not employing the locals.
Mm-hmm.
Because any investment must make sense for the government and it must make sense for the locals as well.
Yes, yes.
Now, yes, as we as the ATM want to make sure that South Africa is not seen as a modern day colony of any country.
Mm-hmm.
It must be an independent country that takes its decisions without, for example, considering other countries. Because it can't be that when we have to take a decision, we need to think about what will a certain country say, because it means we're not a true independent country.
Mm-hmm.
We're just basically a modern colony.
Mm-hmm.
So as ATM, like we do have an understanding that there's enough money in our country, but it is lost due to corruption. It is lost due to not taxing all of these companies. That is why we want to introduce all of these means so that we do not need to depend on those other countries for stuff that we should be doing for ourselves.
Yes, yes, yes. But it was great talking to you. This has been, it was amazing. You have some amazing ideas. I really like what you had to say. I mean, I can see a great future there. If you implement these things, the fact that you're Christian based, you have conservative ideas and great ideas to uplift the law. You know, the rural areas which have been neglected, I would say, for 100 years. They should have been brought up. Yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, and that's the best approach. Is come from the bottom up, not from the top down, because the bottom never they never get to the bottom. I've always said they always say that governments come and go. So if you start at the top and the government changed, they start at the top again. And if you start at the bottom, they have to start at the bottom again. And once you keep, that's a very good idea. Never thought of it that way. That's awesome. That's actually a brilliant idea. Well, it was nice meeting you. I'd love to talk to you again. And that, I really love to talk to you again. Thanks very much for coming on my show. I will put it on YouTube and in the next hour or so, and it's free for everybody to watch. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and God bless you.
You too, my brother. Thank you. Amba Gaslam Fuetu. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Bye bye. Bye bye.